Hello and welcome back for another Pioneer video. Today we're going to be taking a look at this Simulacrum Synthesizer Metalwork Colossus deck. The gist of the deck is to play the Simulacrum Synthesizer for 3 mana, and then whenever we cast another artifact with mana value 3 or greater, we get to create a construct token that gets +1/+1 for each artifact that we control. To enable this, we have 2 copies of Assimilation Aegis as removal, 4 copies of Brass Knuckle, which when we cast, we get to create a copy, which will also trigger the synthesizer. We have 4 copies of Leyline Axe, which could be used to trigger the synthesizer, or if it's in our opening hand, we might want to start with it on the battlefield to reduce the cost of Metalwork Colossus. We have a couple copies of Memory Garden, which will often be able to play for 1 mana. And we have 4 copies of Metalwork Colossus, which is normally an 11 mana 10/10, but the casting cost gets reduced by X, where X is the total mana value of non-creature artifacts we control. So if we start with a couple Leyline Axe in play, we can often cast this very early in the game. Brass Knuckles also significantly reduces the casting cost. Ultimately, we're looking to be able to play this out for free. And then additionally, if it gets destroyed or discarded, we can sacrifice 2 artifacts we control and return it from the graveyard to our hand. In the early game, we can use Moonsnare Prototype as ramp or Portable Hull as interaction. We have 4 copies of Fabrication Foundry for ramp, 4 copies of Ingenious Smith to help dig for our synthesizer. It is also a scaling threat, and then a single copy of the Iron Crag. When it comes to the mana base, we're playing 1 copy of Iganjo as some generic interaction, as well as 1 copy of Otawara. Then there are a handful of dual lands, a couple artifact lands, 1 Formal Revolt, which for 3 mana we can discard a card and look at the top X cards of our library, where X is the number of artifacts we control, and then we get to put 1 of those in our hand. So in the late game, when we draw something like a land that we don't need anymore, we're able to cycle that into a potentially more useful card. And lastly, there's Inventor's Fair. If we control 3 or more artifacts, we gain 1 life during our upkeep, and then for 4 mana, we can sacrifice it and search our library for an artifact card and put it into our hand. So the premise of the deck is pretty simple. Go wide and go big, and just try and smash your opponent in the face for lethal. Notably, one more thing, the Leyline Axe gives trample and double strike, so once we have a fairly large token, even if our opponent is able to generate jump blockers, we should be able to win the game. Before we jump into the gameplay, I'd like to ask you to please like and subscribe the video. It really helps the channel. And without further ado, let's jump into the games. This hand is good, and I think with double Brass Knuckles, we are fine with putting the Leyline into play. It's also something that we can use with the Moonsnare Prototype to play out the synthesizer on turn 2. We'll be looking for another land here, and we find it. So we had a very explosive opening start here. Grazer from our opponent for some ramp. These are gates, so our opponent could have some board wipes in their deck, but I think we're going to win next turn. This should reduce the Metalwork Colossus to 0. We can get another token. They're going to need to present another blocker, and they do not. We can play out another Knuckle, grow our token some more, and just swing for lethal. Good game. This hand is good, we'll keep. Here we'll start on the wastes. Island from our opponent. Ganju into Ingenious Smith. We'll probably just take the ramp. We don't know that our opponent is going to have small creatures, and we already have the Assimilation Aegis. So play out the Citadel. That will scale our Smith. Then we can attack in. And then with our opponent holding up 2 mana, I don't think that we're going to try and play out the Synthesizer in case they have a counter spell. And there is no more lies. And we're also going to hold on to the Moonstare so that we can trigger the Smith next turn. They play out the Celestis, so this gives us a window to play out the Synthesizer. Brass Knuckles is a good pickup, and Metalwork's Colossus can follow it up for free. Pass the turn. We're not too concerned with board wipes, but something like a Farewell would be devastating to our deck. Here I actually think we lead on the Prototype. We can tap down the Synthesizer and still have 4 mana, and it's not likely to be countered by our opponent, meaning the Smith can get in for 4. That works. And then Brass Knuckles is a good counter target for our opponent. That hurts a bit. Never seen this card played before in a real deck. Lockdown will wipe up all of our tokens. So we'll just play out a Metalwork Colossus here and we'll equip one of the Knuckles. If our opponent doesn't remove the Colossus, we have lethal next turn. So we'll just try and give it double strike and attack in, see if this works. They go digging. They'll need to find a 2 mana answer. And it looks like they didn't, so we'll win with combat damage. Good game. This hand is fine. We'll keep. We don't have much early game interaction. I think we hold on to the axe. We'll try putting it in play. We're likely to draw into more cards to trigger the Synthesizer with the Smith. And we can also portable hold that Llanowar Elves right away. No need to wait here. Badger Mole Cub unfortunately would have been a better target. So now we have a choice. And the second Aegis off the top, I think we just play it out right away. This is more about surviving our opponent's early game than it is putting out tokens early. They have another Cub. So now we have the same question as before. Do we take it out immediately? And with more ramp, I think we do. We can't play out the Iron Crag first, so we'll just go for the Cub. Don't want to find out what our opponent is ramping into, and they have a third Cub. So we are likely to lose this one now. This is just variance. They drew 3 of their Cubs in the top 10 cards of their deck. And now a Trailblazer, they should be able to cycle through their deck pretty quickly. Time to get the Synthesizer down. Neither one of these trigger it, so we'll put them to the bottom. Let's see how bad it gets for us this turn. Storm the Festival, so this one's probably over. And they find their 4th Cub. Lucky for us, they don't even have another land to Earthbend onto. So they pick the Hydra again. And Troll. So we really need to top deck a 3-mana artifact here. And unfortunately we do not. So we'll play out the Smith. We might be able to cast the Metalwork. We can. So this will at least save us some damage if our opponent decides to hold back. This is one of the scenarios I was talking about during the deck tech, where the Leyline Axe, giving one of our creatures trample, will be able to attack through all these small creatures. Although if our opponent finds a Karn here, then we won't be able to equip anymore. Another Trailblazer and Cura, so our opponent will draw a bunch of cards. And with all this mana, they are likely able to just continue dumping them out onto the battlefield.
I love to make a splash.
Cavalier flips another Storm.
Octopuses, serpents, oh, I love them all. One drop ripples and grows.
Their board gets haste, and this looks like enough for lethal. They have a blue Chronos as well. So even though we had a bunch of interaction for their early game, they just had too much ramp. So even if we block here, we're going to be dead. We'll just block their largest creatures. The 8/8 and the 7/7. And can we trade with anything? One of the elves. Good game. This hand is okay. We are looking for some interaction with our Smith. We'll take 1 damage to play out the Moonsnare prototype. We'll play the Pathway on white. Then play out the Smith. Unfortunately, this does not hit anything. We'll just take another Foundry. And our opponent with a cantrip. They're on an Is It deck. Shock and Steam Vents. And then play an Artist Talent. We're going to take that out with the Portable Hole right away. So we'll play out our Foundry. And then our Portable Hole. And here we actually just play out the Citadel because we have plenty of artifacts in hand to continue to trigger the Smith. No play from our opponent. We'll start on the Foundry. Our opponent looks like they have a burn spell, Fiery Impulse. Can actually target our own creature here, so we'll save it. Don't need another burn spell. The reason we're bouncing this, or trying to bounce it, is so that we can continue to dig for a Synthesizer. Unfortunately, our opponent does have another burn spell. Now we're in a pretty bad shape. They just cast the Phoenix from hand. Well, we can do stuff like that too. Next turn, we can actually cast the Brass Knuckle and equip both copies for double strike. Our opponent holds back a blocker. We'll swing in. Our opponent is likely to be able to continue to return these Phoenix back to the battlefield. We'll activate the Vault, discarding the Inventor's Fair. Get to look at 6 cards here. There's a Leyline Axe. I don't think we have to worry about too much counter magic from this deck. Although they do have it Into the Floodmaw, so that will prevent us from attacking for lethal next turn. They're going to Treasure Cruise here. Plenty of cards in graveyard. They can cast it for 1 mana. Let's see what they left in there besides the Phoenix. An Impulse to Consider and a land. The land would indicate that they don't necessarily have any way to flash back spells from the graveyard. They leave 2 mana up here. Nope, they play out the Prankster. Let's see if we play out the Leyline Axe first. Make sure to tap our Foundries. We'll also be able to play out the Smith. This finds our Synthesizer. And then from 1 mana we can play out the Colossus. This will grow the Smith as well. So our opponent is running out of time. We are at 15, so if they find another Phoenix or 2, they could fly over us for the win. Luckily, it's just the 1 at the moment. And they'll take out our Smith. So we need 3 mana to equip. They could also have a bounce spell. Oh, that's not going to work. Play out the Synthesizer first. Memory Garden would cost us life. I don't think we need another Brass Knuckles. I think we try to equip here. Hit for 22. They could have a bounce spell. Nope, they just take it, so we pulled this one off. Good game. This hand is good. We'll keep. Unfortunately, our opponent doesn't play anything out here that we want to use Portable Hole on. So we'll just pass the turn back. We also found our third land for Synthesizer. Nightmare. Actually think we get rid of the Smith here. No need to play out the Portable Hole. We'll get the wastes down and pass the turn. Just need to dodge a targeted discard spell here where they take the Synthesizer. They move Urian to hand. Leyline Axe is okay. Don't think we actually need it though. One thing we're looking to dodge here is Doom Foretold, which it is looking to be a Doom Foretold deck based on what we've seen so far. We'll start spitting out tokens here. Play out the Brass Knuckles. Then also the Metalwork Colossus, so our opponent will need a board wipe. If they do have the board wipe here, we only have the Assimilation Aegis to start rebuilding. Grim Bauble, not good enough. And there is the Doom Foretold. So we should be able to win this one. We'll just get rid of one of the Knuckles. Then we can play out the Portable Hole, take out their token. We had lethal through their blocker anyway. Good game. This hand is good. We'll keep. I do think we still drop the Leyline Axe, even though it's the only way to trigger Synthesizer. And then we'll get the Hallowed Fountain out of the way. Opponent starts on a Llanowar Elves. We're fine with using a Portable Hole here. Just trying to slow down our opponent's curve. Although Thalia will slow us down. So we'll lead on the Smith. These are both fine. We'll take another Knuckles. Drop the Citadel to grow the Smith. And a Badgermole Cub. No land from our opponent though, so it looks like taking out the Llanowar Elves did slow them down a bit. Here we can play out the Inventions Fair, start gaining life. And then we'll drop the Synthesizer. Colossus is good. And honestly, the Vault also not a bad follow-up. Don't think it's needed though. And then we can hit for 3. I do think we're the aggressor in this matchup right now. Skyclave will take out the Synthesizer. Unfortunate. Opponent hits back for 4. We can either equip the Leyline Axe or we can get the Brass Knuckles down. If we play out the Knuckles, then our Colossus becomes free, so we'll do that. And then we'll hit for 4 first. That way our opponent doesn't know that a 10-10 is coming. And the Colossus dodges a second Skyclave, so they'll need some other form of removal. Enduring Innocence won't do it. So here we can equip the Leyline axe. And we can also give double strike to the smith. So this should be lethal. Opponent doesn't see the trample, and that's game over. Good game. This hand is fine. We'll keep. We can put the axe into play and then play out a tapped fountain. Elvish Mystic. We'll take that out immediately with the portable hole. Not knowing our opponent's deck list, I do think it is always correct to try and take out these early ramp cards when possible. Although Badgermole Cub obviously is a better target. We'll play out the Synthesizer. Neither one of these is what we're looking for. Big turn for our opponent here. 4 mana showing. And they have Aura Bolroid. That will be able to outscale our creatures. Here we run the risk of playing out the Smith and missing on a 1 or 2 mana artifact that we can play out. I think we have to take the risk. We find the Iron Crag. This will allow us to play out the Metalwork Colossus. Opponent with an Elspeth. Also problematic. We don't mind them taking out the Colossus. Gladly double blocked Ouroboros here. We could sacrifice the Ironworks, bring back the Colossus. I think we'll go to our turn first. Ottawa costs 4 to channel, so we only have 1 mana here. Can't reduce the cost with the Fabrication Foundry. We'll pass the turn. Bounce the Ouroboros before combat. Thalia is fine. So this actually looks like the same deck that we just played. Bounce the Ouroboros before it gets to put counters on all of their creatures. They might as well attack in for 11 here. They do not. Knuckles is a good top deck. We'll swing in, try and take out the Elspeth. They're likely to chump with the Enduring Innocence. So I think we'll get rid of one of the Iron Crags here. And we'll get rid of the token copy of the Knuckles. We can play the Colossus back out. I believe our opponent has lethal in the air here. Our board will put 2 counters on all of their creatures. And they gain flying, plus the additional 1 counter from Elspeth. So, good game. This hand is good. We'll keep. Our opponent appears to be on an unfair deck. They've taken at least 3 mulligans already. We'll shock ourselves, play out the prototype. They're on a red deck. Get the Iron Crag down. Tap land from our opponent. Play out the Synthesizer. Take the axe for trample if we need it. Get a tap land out of the way. Then next turn we should be able to put lethal on board. So we'll lead off on the Brass Knuckles. And the Knuckles are actually lethal by themselves, so we're not actually going to play out the Metalwork Colossus here in case our opponent has a board wipe. Opponent loses the flip. No treasure for you. They do have a chump blocker. We don't have enough here to play and equip the axe. So we'll just swing in. No need to play out any of our cards here. We can just pass the turn. Next turn we should be able to get both tokens up to lethal damage. And there was no play from our opponent, and they concede. Good game. We'll give this hand a try. We can dump the Leyline axe into play. Then we'll have an early Memory Garden as well. Opponent shocks in. Unfortunately, we draw the second Leyline axe here. Obviously, we would have preferred to have that in our opening hand as well to reduce the Colossus. Steel Cutter, no way to trigger it yet. Play out the Pathway. Fabrication Foundry. Next turn, we can either play out the Memory Garden or the Brass Knuckles. I think Knuckles into Colossus is going to be our pick here. The blue deck will have a bunch of trouble dealing with a 10-10. Notably, it will have Trample and Double Strike as well. Although our opponent is starting to put on a bit of pressure, I don't think it will matter. So we'll play out the Wastes. Then the Brass Knuckles. Play out the Colossus. Next turn, Memory Garden will only cost 1, and we can also equip the axe to the Colossus. Opponent with another Steel Cutter. They decide to hold back. Cost 5 to channel. So I think we just equip here. Then we can attack in. 22 damage coming in, so our opponent will need to cast a spell here. They do not, so we're going to trample over for lethal. Good game. Alright, so there you had the deck. Surprisingly, the Metalwork Colossus actually seemed a bit stronger than the Synthesizer in these matches. Being able to cast it for free and then giving it trample with the Leyline axe provided for quite a powerful interaction. The deck felt competitive against most of the matchups that we had, with the green Badgermole Cub / Ouroboros decks giving us the most trouble. Even though we do have 6 removal spells and a handful of bounce spells, it's hard to know which creatures you need to answer early game, and then if your opponent is able to get an Ouroboros onto the battlefield and you don't answer it right away, it can scale their creatures out of range of your tokens. Outside of that, I think the deck did very well. As always, I'd like to thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more content.